Hey everybody, welcome to today's show. Welcome to Advocate Information Highway. I'm your host, Anthony Lorito-Duke, and we have a very interesting topic for today's show, in which it is, as we all have seen, that there's major attacks being done again on the LGBT community, more so towards trans people. And, I was watching a video, I believe it was taken in the United States House of Representatives, in which there was a dispute about, um, uh, you know, on the Democratic side, it was a trans person. On the opposite side, it was a Republican. And um, the Republican didn't want to uh, call the Democratic colleague by their respective um, uh, gender identity. The Democratic wanted to be known, I guess, as a she or something like that. I don't know which one, but they didn't give the opposite side, the Republican side, did not call them by uh, proper gender identity and stuff like that, or not proper pronouns and stuff like that. And there was a big heated argument about this and on the floor and you know here's the thing, because we all have to have respect for one another. We really do. Honestly, we really do. All this hatred and nonsense and anger and disgust and all of it needs to stop on both sides of the aisle. It really does. Okay? So I've come up with an idea, and uh maybe if they listen to this, and you know, if it's in the House of Representatives, just say my colleague representative and that person's last name. Or if they're in the United States Senate, just simply say my colleague senator and their last name. Or, if you're speaking to them, you say representative and their last name or senator and their last name. Instead of worrying about calling them by pronouns or gender identity and stuff like that. That way it's common ground. Both sides can respect that, you know. But let's just say, um, if the person is out in public, okay, if the trans person is out in public and they go to a restaurant, when you're out in public, people do not have psychic powers. They're not going to know your true gender identity. They're not going to know what pronoun to call you. Okay, instead of getting mad at them, be understanding of them. Just like you want to be understood and respected, you got to show that same respect to other people, right? So, with that being said, you know, um, for all waiters and waitresses, for people behind counters and stuff like that, instead of calling people like sir or ma'am and stuff like that, just say, hi, how are you? How can I help you? You know, don't worry about saying pronouns or gender identifications. That's it. So, and if you and if people don't know how to do that, and they say, how am I gonna do that? I don't know how to do things like that. First of all, you have to get an education. I mean, really. You just say, hi, how are you? How are you doing? If you're having Let's say if there's a dispute with your c with a if a customer comes up and they have a dispute, don't instead of calling them by pronouns or gender identification, just say, "I'm sorry, I'm trying to help you with the situation." Keep things like that. Don't, just keep avoiding calling them by pronouns or even things like sir or ma'am or avoid that, and don't call them by gender identity either. Just avoid all that in conversations. Avoid all that. So that way nobody can get offended. That's it. So um that's the way to keep things simple. Honestly. Seriously. Keep things simple. And just don't call them by pronouns. Do not call them by uh sir or ma'am. Do not call them by that. Do not call them by gender identity. Avoid all that. But now on the flip side of the coin, like I said, we have to respect one another. And nobody has psychic powers to know what your gender identity is or your pronouns or whatever. And you can't get mad at them. And I've seen videos where just people where trans people, they just get mad and whatever, and start yelling at people who don't have psychic powers and who don't know, oh, the gender identity or what pronoun to call them. Listen, you can't walk around it with a disgusting, horrible attitude either. Nobody can. And in politics, that goes for both sides of the aisle. Okay? And if you're out in society, you can't be walking around with a disgusting, horrible attitude. And many trans people do that. Many of them walk around with a disgusting, horrible attitude. You know, seriously, can't do that. Can't do that. I understand about your hurt and things like that. I totally understand that. But you also have no right to go walking around with a disgusting, horrible attitude either. You don't. Two wrongs don't make a right. Seriously. All right? Because in life, you're going to hear people say things, you're going to see people do things that you're not going to like. Okay? That's a part of life. And since we're on this topic, here's the other thing I got to say, especially for the younger generation that are that are minors and stuff that are in like high school and and below that and stuff. Um, for all these people, I've seen like these videos where these people are crying because maybe they live in a Republican state and their rights are taken from them and stuff, and they don't feel safe and stuff. And I understand that you're in a very difficult situation. I understand that. But here's the thing. You made a decision, or maybe your parents made the decision for you to have that sex change. And with every decision that we make in life, there's always going to be consequences. And not everybody's going to like our decisions. Okay, that's just a part of life. Not everybody's going to accept you. That's a part of life. Okay, so you can't walk around with a disgusting, horrible, nasty attitude. But you also, because I've seen a lot of these videos by a lot of these kids, they're crying and everything because their rights are taken away from them and stuff like that, and so on. You got to have a backbone in life. Okay, doing all this crying and stuff like that is not going to help the situation. It isn't. You gotta have a backbone in life, okay? You basically just have to grin and bear it until you're old enough to when you get into the adult age, and then you can make a decision whether you want to move to a democratic state with where your rights are gonna be protected, or just stay in a state where your rights are not gonna be protected, and you're always gonna be hated and stuff, you know? But this crying and no backbone and everything does not help the situation. Because let me tell you something, you know, it's really important to look at uh, advocates that are from this country's history. And one of the greatest all-time advocates, not for the LGBT people, but for the people in the black community, one of the all-time greatest advocates for black people's rights is Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Okay, and he had a major backbone. He didn't cry and stuff like that when he didn't get his way. He created peaceful marches and stuff like that. They were all peaceful. He was not about violence and stuff like that. And you know, and yes, he paid the ultimate price for his advocacy. But the point is he had a backbone and he stood strong and he didn't cry, you know, and stuff like that. And that's just my point. That's why I said that this as an example. You gotta have a backbone. You gotta stay strong and keep doing things the legal right way. No violence, no none of that. Okay. And like I said, once you get into the adult age and you're able to move out on your own and stuff like that and whatever, move to a democratic state to where your rights will be protected, you know. But until then, you basically just have to grin and bear it. That's it. There is no other choice. You know, if you're a minor living in a Republican state where your rights are not protected, there's nothing anybody can do about that. Unless if your whole family decides to get up and move to a democratic state, or maybe if your parents, uh, like I said, I don't know, maybe if your parents get up and move to a democratic state, move the whole family to a democratic state. I don't know. Or if, I guess if your parents, you know, let you move to a family member or whatever, and that lives in a democratic state, and they rightfully sign the documents and everything, giving whomever the power and authority uh, to watch over you and everything and stuff like that, and, you know, and that person lives in a democratic state, and then whatever. I mean, so otherwise you just have to grin and bear it. You really do. And it's a sad situation. It really is. But this is life. This is life. You know, this is life on life's terms. So, but anyways, I wanted to remind all my fans out there about my website, Advocate Information Highway. The link to there is AIHNY.com. Again, that's AIHNY.com. You guys could check out all the pages on there. And if you go to the store page of my website, If you go to the store page of my website, you'll see 2 links on there. One of those links is to my internet store on Zazzle.com. And if you click on that link and go to my internet store on Zazzle.com, you'll see all the products that I design and that are up for sale on my internet store on Zazzle.com. And so with that, take care, everybody. Bye.